Hello everyone. Welcome back to new series on training videos on telecommunication and networking fundamentals. I am Mukund, your trainer for the entire series. Here we would deal with very basics of networking and telecommunication, and all the videos will be based on its usage in the telecom industry. So this set of videos are not for one who is already in the field of networking, but also for those who are looking to start a career in field of networking and technology. So feel free to watch all of these, and trust me, you are going to learn a lot. So now let us start with the the topics that I'm going to cover here. So here we will learn starting from what is telecommunication, and it's all basics in the networking field. So let's start with the topic of basics of telecommunication. So, what do we mean by the term telecommunication? So, let me explain you. So, telecommunication is a process of transmitting or receiving. So, you have either to transmit data from point A to B, or you can receive the data from B to A. Okay. So, these can be done over a distance, and you have to use any of the medium that you are trying to use for sending or receiving the data. So it can be electrical or electromagnetic medium. Okay. This enables us to pass the information from one or more given correspondent. So here the correspondent can be via, it can be telegraphy or telephony, or any possible correspondent. It can be based on the broadcasting way. So information of any nature can be delivered from one point to another point, and this can be in any format. Okay, so it can be in the printed matter, it can be fixed or moving, it can be pictures, it can be words. So any type of signals can be transmitted. It can be your voice, it can be your video, or it can be any of your data format. It can be pictures, it can be in printed media. So any of the type of signals that can be transmitted from one point to another point over a distance using any of the electrical or electromagnetic medium. Okay, so this is how we do the communication, and the medium that we will be using here, it can be a wired, it can be wireless, it can be via radio transmission, or it can be via optical transmission. So both of these are covered under the wire or wireless section. It can be optical, or it can be using radio transmission medium. Now let's understand what are these terms that we use for signal transmission method. The two terms that we will get familiar with are the baseband transmission and broadband transmission. So let's understand one by one both the topics, that is baseband transmission and broadband transmission. Even before going into the topics of baseband and broadband communication, let's understand how we transfer a data from one point to another. As I told you before, we have a signal in analog format, then we have a modulator, or you can call it a carrier signal, and that carrier signal is carrying your audio signal. For example, in this case, this signal can be any type, it can be your video or it can be your data. You have a modulator, that is a carrier signal. So the carrier signal will carry all your data here. Then you have a transmitter, and then we use a transmission medium, it can be wired or wireless. Then we have a receiver, Then again, as the modulator, we have to demodulate the signal, and then we get the signal back as it was sent from the sender side. Okay. Okay. Now let's learn regarding something called as baseband transmission and how it is different from broadband transmission. So what happens in case of baseband transmission is it is a type of data transmission in which digital or analog signal is sent over a single unmultiplexed channel. Okay, so it is sent over single unmultiplexed channel. For example, it can be Ethernet LAN. So baseband transmission, this uses time division multiplexing or the TDM. So these are used for sending the simultaneous bits of data along the full bandwidth of the transmission channel. So here the original band of frequencies of signal, it is modulated for transmission at higher frequency. Okay, so here signals are, as I told, it is modulated for transmission for above higher frequency. Only a single transmission can occur at a given point of time. So here only a single transmission occurs at single point of time. As I told you, it is TDM based, time division multiplexing. Now most of the communication between the computers or majority of the local area network, they use, in case of various LANs of offices or various computers, they use these kind of communication using this baseband. Okay, I use the short form as baseband. Okay, so baseband communication. Now this baseband is cheaper method than the broadband. I will discuss how it is cheaper and why we are like most of the places LANs uses this baseband communication rather than broadband, because these are for shorter distance transmission. So basically these are used for shorter distances. And the digital signals that are sent, these are carried over the baseband transmission and these are unmodulated. As I told you, these are unmodulated. Now coming to the broadband, these type of broadband signals and in data communication, these transmission in which single medium carried various channels. Here we have unmultiplexed. So here we have multiple channels are used for data transmission. So you have multiple channels, but it uses a single medium. It can be optical or electrical, but it can be a single wire. But the signals are multiplexed. Okay, so several channels are multiplexed together. So this was the first difference that we see here. In case of baseband transmission, we have it is unmultiplexed and sent, but in this case we have multiple channels that are multiplexed and sent over a single medium. Okay. Now these are used for high speed transmission. high speed transmission or high bandwidth, you can tell, for connection to internet, or the cable, or the in the previously it was used for digital subscriber line, DSLs. Okay. So many channels are available for transmission in case of broadband transmission, and these allows multiple networking devices to connect. So multiple networking devices can connect on different channels. Since we have so many channels available here, in the previous case we have only one single transmission that can occur at one point of time. Okay, and they are using only single carrier. So these are multiplexed, and they can transmit simultaneously, and there no collision happens because they are multiplexed, and all the data are transmitted at single point of time. So you have multiple channels you can use for different purposes, and since they are multiplexed, they all reach at the same point of time. Okay. And in case of broadband system, we are capable of carrying a large quantity of data simultaneously, and these are mostly used with coaxial or optical cable. So as you know, in optical cables we have multiple channels that can be multiplexed and sent. Okay. So let's go back to this picture and understand again the difference that we have seen in case of broadband and baseband. So in case of baseband transmission, we were not using multiple signals to be multiplexed and sent. Here we are just using the carrier signal, that is single channel. It is TDM based in case of baseband. So audio signal, first it is modulated, then it is transmitted. So in the next video, I will discuss what are different types of signal, how this analog signal, audio is analog signal, it gets converted to digital, okay, and then it is transmitted. So I will discuss what are analog signal and digital signal in my next video. So here as I told you, we are using only single channel in case of baseband. In case of broadband, we have multiple channels and they are multiplexed and sent on this transmitter. And we can use this transmission media. This can be any of the method of a wired technology or wireless technology. Okay. So later in my videos, I will cover different types of technology that we have, starting from PDH, we have SDH, then we will cover what is OTNDWDM, what is MPLS, what is MPLS IP, and what is MPLS TP. So later we will also discuss the wireless technology that is evolving from 2G, 3G, 4G LTE, and 5G networks. So all the things, please stay connected. Let's discuss those things in my upcoming videos. Thank you. Happy learning.